Welcome, everybody. We're real excited for this webinar. I'm Paul Smith. I'm the Director of Marketing over here at Kuali. I'm your host for today's webinar. With me is our Vice President of Marketing, Casey Foster. She's going to be helping moderate the session with us today. Appreciate your help kicking things off, Casey. But as I mentioned, we're real excited to have the team from Western University's Department of Engineering here to share their story with Kuali Build, in particular, because Western has been one of our very early adopters of Kuali Build. So they've been using the solution for quite some time and have quite a story to tell. So let me introduce the team today. I'm excited to introduce Ronald Farren. He's the Associate Director of Information Technology at the Engineering Department at Western University. Ron joined Western University Engineering as an Associate Technology Director 8 years ago. Prior to working in higher education, Ron spent over 20 years working in industry for IBM, TD Bank, leading end-user computing, client-server infrastructure management, and customer support service teams. So quite an interesting and varied history. Ron, welcome, and thank you for joining. Also, we'll be joining very soon. He's about to jump in is Ali Nursal. He's an application developer. Ali has served as an application developer at Western University Engineering for the past 6 years. With a career spanning 2 decades, he began as an online marketing specialist. Hey, love that. And later transitioned to specializing in both front-end and back-end web development following his graduation from a web development program. So welcome Ali as soon as he's able to join us. And finally, David Lee. He is a system administrator and a full stack software engineer with a background in higher education, financial, medical, and manufacturing sectors. 8 years ago, he made a homecoming to Western Engineering, where he is now focused on web technologies, including infrastructure, software development, and procurement. So there's the team. Welcome, the three of you. We're very excited to have you with us today and to share your story. Before I hand things off to the team and they dive into their story, I want to share just a little bit of background on Kuali as a company and Kuali Build specifically. Kuali, we like to say that we build software for the future of higher education. We're very future focused in our development and have a lot of exciting things coming in the near term. But looking back, Kuali really got its start back in 2004 as the Kuali Foundation, when a group of universities came together, universities and colleges got together to build software that was a better fit for their needs than what traditional software vendors had to offer. And then over the next 10 years, the consortium grew very rapidly, and it became clear at a certain point that there were increasing needs for a cloud-based SaaS solution and accelerated development. So in 2014, Kuali was launched as a for-profit company that would focus on design and speed of delivery. And we've been evolving ever since and have really seen rapid growth. Over the past 10 years, we've grown to the point where we now have over 200 higher ed institutions, mainly across the US and Canada. And we remain focused on that mission that began with a small group of colleges and universities back in 2004, building amazing software to meet the needs of institutions in higher education. So let's talk about what Kuali does. We have 5 different product lines that we support. We have financials, we have Kuali Ready, Kuali Research, Kuali Student, and Kuali Build. In each of these narrow focus areas, we have deep expertise that we bring to the table. A lot of folks in the company with history who have worked in these different, we'll call them sectors within higher education. And so we've really been able to flesh out some very mature and industry-leading products respective to those different areas of higher education. But today we're going to be focused on Kuali Build. Kuali Build is the no-code solution for online forms and workflow automation. It's designed exclusively for higher education institutions. Now, when we think about solutions that are out there for developing online forms or workflow automations, You generally see two different types of software. There are simple and easy solutions that don't require developers. They're no-code solutions, but they don't typically meet all the business requirements for a sophisticated department like Western University's Department of Engineering, um, or a university, and they tend to be inexpensive, which is great, but again, not robust enough to really meet all the needs. So those are the types of systems you usually see running as shadow systems that are propped up to kind of fill in the gaps where departments aren't able to find software or get support for the things that they need. On the other end of the spectrum, and it's really, again, it's these two buckets that we see mainly, is software that we could describe as complex and powerful. Those typically require a development team and coding. They do, they are very robust, so they do ultimately meet the business requirements, and they tend to be a lot more expensive, right? So you can get what you need, but it requires a little more heavy lifting from the development team to build those sophisticated workflows that you need to support your department or university. Kuali Build is the best of both worlds. It's both easy and powerful. It is a no-code solution, so there's no developer required in building these forms and sophisticated workflows. And so it meets all of your business requirements. There really isn't anything that you could throw at Kuali Build that it's not able to support. And it's affordable, so it's going to fall within your budget constraints without breaking the bank. There are two main characteristics that describe Kuali Build. It enables IT to safely increase capacity to deliver solutions to more, people within the department or departments across the institution. It's a way to scale up without bringing in a lot of additional resources and building up the team. And it also empowers departments to create their own forms and workflows, right? So it doesn't require, again, a developer to do a lot of coding to build some pretty sophisticated solutions to really support all of the needs that you might have within your department. So Kuali Build by the numbers, just to give you a sense of how it's been going over the past, I think it's been about 5.5 years now that Kuali Build's been out. A grand total of 12,394 apps have been created since we started counting in January of 2020. That number may actually be higher. And in total, over 2 million submissions. And so the way I like to think about this number is that's 2 million emails that didn't go back and forth constantly trying to get approval on something. That's 2 million PDFs that weren't created and then rekeyed into another system, or 2 million paper documents that students didn't have to fill out and hand in to the registrar's office, right? So that's saving a lot of time for a lot of people. And the way that happens, the magic behind that number is the fact that you don't have a small team of people building an enormous number of apps at a university. Conversely, because it's easy and contained and supported, you're able to upscale quickly and have this idea of citizen developers or other people within your department becoming admins and masters of their own domain, creating their own forms and their own workflows for their respective areas. So that's, again, we're coming up on 10,000 folks building these apps using Kuali Build. All right, that's my brief introduction on Kuali and Kuali Build. With that, we'll turn to Western University and their story of Kuali Build over the last 5 years. And Ron, we'll start with you. The Department of Engineering at Western University. Take me back in time. I think it was, what, 5 years ago?
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, I think it was in 2018 when we first learned about Kuali Build. And I think, it was kind of, I want to say by luck that we found the product. I was at a conference, Can Hike conference, and checking out the vendor stands that were there. And I'm pretty sure it was Liz Christensen that said to me, as I'm walking by, Kuali forms, anybody can build them. I thought, well, this sounds interesting. And, unknown to Liz and to Kuali is we were engaging already in a project to try to automate and put a form online. It was a very complex process flow from our administration department. dealing with internal hiring approvals. So we were currently gathering requirements on how we were going to try to build this ourselves, host it ourselves using our content management system that was available to us when we saw this product. And immediately it was clear that this was a bit of a game changer for us in terms of saving us some time and giving us a platform that we probably could build our form in quite easily. And then from there, we didn't know just how far we'd go with it, but certainly some opportunity to go elsewhere with it, Paul. Yeah.
Right. So before you met Liz at Canhite, talk to me a little bit about what life was like at the Department of Engineering, or how it came to
Sure.
be.
Yeah, I can certainly go down that path for sure. I mean, so like our team here in engineering, we're a dedicated IT team specifically for the Faculty of Engineering. We're about 8 resources. We look after everything that an engineering faculty might want to be concerned with, be that computers and support and application development and infrastructure management. There are other faculties on campus, and there are central IT teams here as well. So we're part of a larger pool. In terms of size, like we're about 5,000 people in engineering, or 10% of the university. The university is about 50,000 people. I would tell you that for this one form alone, it was complicated, lengthy. It would probably take 3 or 4 weeks to get to end of job on a submission request. And I think I filled one of these out not that long ago, approval to hire, and it was completed and returned to me within about an hour. So significant waste reduction in terms of getting something done and getting something through.
Holy smokes. That's quite an improvement. And what was, did you, let me back up for a second. I referred to you previously as the Department of Engineering, but you're a little bit more than that. You're the School of Engineering, right? The, the Faculty of Engineering. So
Right.
little correction there. But yeah, when you saw that kind of improvement for your end users, what kind of reaction, or like what was the initial reaction to Kuali Build? And did you hear any feedback from folks as they began using Kuali Build?
Yeah, it's really, in my opinion, it's been an interesting journey for us here using Kuali. We had our first forum online and working, which solved that problem for us. We then internally kind of went on a bit of a roadshow throughout our faculty, met with administrative units and others to say, hey, we've got this great tool, and if you want, we can leverage it. I would tell you that it took some time, a few months, for people to understand really what it is we had here, what the capabilities were, to build some trust in some cases. We had some folks that were very concerned about, if I approve a form, does that mean I've signed it? Is it legitimate? So we had some just internal process things to kind of overcome. But I would tell you now, I like to, as you know, I don't think we can live without it. I mean, we have people that leave our faculty that are used to using the form. They're going elsewhere in Western, and that's, I think, one of the first things they say is, "Where's your quality? How come you're not using it here?" And so, I think that yeah, it's really been significant for us.
In the world of marketing, we call that product-led growth.
Mm,
So it's just people could get used to using something, and then the bar, the expectation is raised. Once you get used to doing something a little bit easier. So David, let me turn to you for a moment. So you're an application developer. Talk a little bit about what you do day to day, and then maybe we can get into how you interacted with Kuali Build.
So day to day, manage websites, web technologies, some servers. Um, and if anybody has requests for software development projects, we cost and scope it and see if it's within reason to do in-house. Yeah, so in terms of quality, um, we, Ali and I, Ron, we sat together. We're trying to figure out what it would be to kind of build this in-house. And
Yeah.
it was a lot of work. And when Ron introduced this Kuali Build to us, it was going to save us time and a lot of effort to even get it something this polished. Um, and the experience has been great with the technical staff. It's been pretty easy integration, I would say.
So when people come to you with requests,
Yeah.
I assume there's a process for that. They have to scope it out, describe exactly what they need, and then they come to you and describe in detail, exactly what they're looking for. Um, I'm curious about before and after. When people came to you with projects, would you ever look at a project and go like, whoa, like you're asking for a lot, that's good. And then when you scope it out, can you give us a sense of, I mean, maybe if we put this in project management terms, like the cost in terms of time when you looked at a project before and after, now when you have Quali Build, have you seen a shift there?
For this particular project?
Or any project, if somebody comes to you with a project and they're
Yeah.
like, we want to build this project, when you scope it out in your mind and you think, okay, here's how much time it's going to take me to create something like this,
Right.
has that shifted for you?
Um, I, we I don't know about shifted, but we take in projects and we do kind of figure out if it's within our wheelhouse, right? If it's something we can do in a quick amount of time. Um, for this particular project, it was going to take two developers like a year to do. It was just
Holy smokes.
a
Okay.
very long time. Just wasn't something that really feasible.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to expand on that a little bit more. I'm really interested in this
Okay.
project. Maybe we can describe it in detail a little bit more. But let's get to Ollie real quick. Ollie, thanks for joining us. Sorry for you had a little bit of that's my fault, I suspect. I think I might have sent you the wrong link to join, but you made it and you're here. We're excited to have you. So as a developer at Western, can you talk a little bit about what you do day to day and then, your introduction to Quality Build?
Oh, yes. I am a web developer in Western Engineering, and so I am responsible of making front-end, back-end applications for engineering departments. And I remember 4 years ago or 5 years ago when we started to work with codiforms. We worked with departments in engineering to convert more than 50 paper-based forms to Cody. And everybody was excited and happy with the results. And we had some issues, but customer support was great to solve those problems, and uh, everything's working great so far.
So I love to hear that. So when you say you converted 50 to 60 paper-based forms, I'm just trying to imagine the size of that project. Can you talk about just scope that out for us a little bit? Like how long did it take you to convert all of those forms over to online forms in Kuali?
I mean, it depends on the forms. For example, there were some forms that were very complicated, and also there were some easy forms. We usually spent like 30 minutes, maybe less than 30 minutes to make a form for other departments if the form structure was easy. But for complicated forms, it was like maybe 1 or 2 hours spent. Depends on how workflow was complicated, and it was really great to spend less time to make so many forms.
Sure. Yeah. And did you hear much feedback from folks who, got these forms converted over?
Oh, yes. I mean, our departments, we made their life easier with Cody forms. And I think in overall, our departments were happy. and grateful. Yes.
That's that's the goal there, right? Love that.
Yes.
So I want to go back for a moment, Ron, and talk a little bit about this project that David referred to. He mentioned that this would potentially be a year-long project to develop. Can you tell us a little bit more about that project, what it entailed, what you were aspiring to do, and how you scoped it out and created it?
Absolutely. So we were challenged by our head of administration to help with an approval to hire process, an internal approval to hire process inside of engineering. So the sort of a pre-step to even posting a job within Western. And so, you know, there are a number of approvals that are required in that process, you know, from departments to supervisors to budgetary to dean, that people would have to go through. And then there's a whole raft of different hiring types. Like if you're hiring a faculty member or a staff member or a student or a co-op or a graduate student, it's part-time, it's full-time, it's, you know, union or it's professional management association people. It was just a myriad, complete matrix of routes this form could go. And, you know, traditionally for us, given that it was so complicated, I mean, a paper-based form could land on anybody's desk and sit there for long periods of time until somebody noticed it. No way to understand where you were in the process, no way to understand who it was waiting on for approvals, no idea to understand sort of, even if that approver was still here, right? It could just be sitting there and never action. So we were challenged. Our head of administration said, you'll never be able to automate this. And we said, challenge accepted. We started to scope that out, and we were going to build it. And we started to get those requirements and look at the forms, and it was pretty daunting. And like I said, you know, it was, I don't know, good fortune that we ran into Kuali at a conference where we found the product. I immediately sent a link to David, said, take a look at this. I think this is exactly what we need. And yeah, he agreed, and it's just kind of history from there. We're like, I mean, I think we're blessed that we get good support within engineering too. I mean, our finance director is very keen on helping out our team, so you know, we're blessed with some of those opportunities and chances.
It's quite the improvement there.
Yeah.
Ron, I wondered if I could follow up on to understand a little more, what was it that made the product appealing to you? I mean, when you had that experience of seeing it, you were at a conference, what were the main things you were looking for, and kind of in what way did Kuali tick those boxes, Kuali Build?
Well, okay, so to be fair, I mean, I saw a demo of the product 5 years ago, which is nowhere close to what the product is today. The product today is just leaps and bounds further developed in terms of its capabilities. But even then, to be able to spin up a form, an online form, just that quickly, to have it productive, that didn't require a great deal of skill. You know, if I was to look at on my team developer time, even if it was 2 resources for 3 months or 6 months, that's quite the cost. And then I got to worry about security and housing it and all kinds of things. You know, compared to being able to integrate this solution into our framework here is so much easier, better, and made sense, right? So that really wasn't a difficult thing for us to move forward with when we started to think about it in that perspective. And then, of course, you know, I don't think we fathomed just how deeply we could use the product until it was here and we really realized what a gem it was. So, yeah.
I have a question for David and Ollie. When you were first introduced to Kuali Build, can you talk a little bit about your first impressions, what your initial impressions of Kuali Build were? And I'm really curious to hear about your experience with implementation and training. Can you talk about that a little bit? How you got up to speed with Kuali Build? And David, we'll go with you first, since
Okay.
you.
Yeah, when I first saw the product, it was pretty clean. Like, it was very easy to create a form. It was very user friendly. It was very intuitive. And the training we got was the integration and training we got was very it didn't take much time to train. Let's just say it's very straightforward product. It's so when we needed to integrate the product into our infrastructure, it really was just a matter of getting users registered into the system, and then we were ready to go.
Okay, How about you, Ollie? Oh, you're on mute, Ollie.
Yes. Yes, it was super easy. We just drag and drop the gadgets into the forms, and it was very useful. And we made so many forms for other departments, and yeah, that was a really good process for everyone.
So, as developers, right, you guys have, ninja skills. You're used to building some pretty complex things that the average human can't do. And now you find yourself using a what you see is what you get, drag and drop, workflow builder, form builder. Um, how how did you reconcile that? Like, how did you feel about using a tool? Was it oversimplified, or to what degree were you able to leverage your experience as developers and bring that forward into the work that you did with Kuali Build? That's a tricky question.
Yeah. Well, I would say that there are some cases where forms are quite a bit complicated, and we do kind of leverage our software development skills and integrate some API integrations to make things easier for the end user.
Okay.
So we'd maybe get lists of departments to automatically populate and stuff like that. So there are opportunities to make um, even more robust.
Well, so let's talk about that a little bit. So API integrations, I think what you're describing. So if I'm an end user and I'm
Yeah,
filling out a form, maybe there's a drop down
right,
that is auto-filled.
right. So we um, for that position information or position form that we're creating, we would create an API integration to pull all our job codes into the form, so you don't have to manually type it in and worry about user error typing in job codes or job descriptions. So we'd pull all that information into Kuali.
Got
We
it.
use, sorry, yeah. So
Do
there's
you,
our, go ahead.
no, finish your thought. Go ahead.
Oh no, there's simple forms that we've created within engineering that um, very basic, but then we can go into more complicated forms if we needed to.
Got it. I'm curious, I might be setting myself up here for failure, but let's see. I'm curious if you have data moving from one Kuali Build app to another Kuali Build app. Do you guys do any inter-app data movement at all?
Maybe Ali might have.
Hmm. I don't recall for now, but we
Okay.
are usually using many API calls to get data uh, for our forms.
Got it. Okay, data sharing. So love to hear it. It's so Kuali doesn't exist on an island. You're moving data in and out kind of as needed. And that's key for data validation, eliminating, spelling errors, making sure that your data is consistent across the board. Um, I'm curious about the numbers. Ron, do you have a sense of how many different apps you've built, forms and workflows using Kuali Build?
Ali probably has a correct
Okay.
number. I'm going to tell you it's north of 100 for sure at this point in time, and that you would think after 5 years we've built every form possible, and it's just not true. I think we just continue to add to that tally.
Does that sound right, Ollie? North of 100?
Yes, I mean it must be close to 100. Yes.
And let me ask, do you have a sense of the total number of submissions that people have submitted forms using Build or workflows?
How many total submissions do we have so far? Yeah, I checked the stats here for engineering, and it says total submissions are so far is 85,000.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, like
85,000.
yeah,
So
80,
yeah,
85,000 779. Yeah.
So that's incredible. So I love to think about that as a pile of paper, right? So if you had 85,000 multi-page forms all stacked on top of each other, like how tall that pile of paper would be. So love to hear it. But getting to that number, back to the point that I made at the very beginning, how many different, we call them app builders, but how many different folks do you have trained to create their own forms and workflows?
Oh, maybe
I
I'll try to answer that one. So I'd say not a ton is the
Okay.
answer for us. You know, I think anybody who's interested in and shows a bit of an aptitude, we certainly walk them through it and support them. We've definitely had some folks in our human resources departments and elsewhere that have done this work, and some of them are still here in the faculty, and some of them have moved off to similar roles elsewhere at Western. But you know, it's there and it's available for those that are interested, and we support them. I would say we do quite a bit just because we can, and then the faculty here kind of leans on us because we can. So it's kind of where it's at.
Great. All right. Thinking about no software is perfect, right? There's always going to be issues. Sometimes there's bugs. Sometimes something's introduced, maybe things break. Can you talk about your experience with both the reliability of Kuali Build, but even more importantly, I'm interested in your experience with our customer success team. How many times what your experience is like working with support. And if anyone wants to jump in there.
Yes, I can say like for example that when there is an issue in quality forms, we just email customer service support and they fix it immediately usually. Like they usually solve our problems in 1-2 hours. If it is a complicated problem, it might take like one day, but they are so fast and they are really kind, and I like the way they fix and email us, and they really care about like how they can fix it in a short time.
Great. David, have you had any experience with our CS team at all?
Yeah, lots. So when we initially integrated Quali, there were some features and gadgets that weren't available, and we'd submit requests and for possibly creating like feature requests. And our customer success rep would contact us and kind of discuss the roadmap and see when it's integrating or when it will next be integrated into our pipeline. So we've had those situations where we've had to manually create a table by dragging and drop a whole bunch of features, a whole bunch of gadgets on the page. But then, yeah, in a future release, we'd get a new gadget, a table gadget that would make it much easier to add a table, right? So there's been a lot of those requests from us.
Yeah.
Since we're new to it.
Yeah. What behind the scenes, it's interesting. When feature requests come in, we use Slack for internal communications, like like company messaging. And we have a dedicated channel for conversations related to feature requests. And when they come in, everybody, who receives them can post them. And so we'll see, Ali from Western University has requested the following feature. And then you'll see like tons of people will chime in, like, yes, I've heard this before, or, you'll get the +1 emoji, people kind of vote it up internally. So a lot of quick discussion happens. So my point in sharing this is that our feature enhancement requests don't go into a black box. Like we actively engage with those. We debate them internal. Debate's a good word. We debate because there are many, right? And we have to prioritize. And I got to give a lot of credit to our Vice President of Sales and Consultation, Liz Christensen. who's a real ally for you all. She'll go in and hype you up, and she's actually on the webinar today. She's saying hi on me to me on Slack right now, and she says hi to you all as well. Hi, Ron. But you she'll hype up, feature requests, and yeah, so we have a system internally of managing those. So we take those enhancement requests to heart, and we get excited about them because we imagine all the use cases that could come forward from those enhancements. And we have kind of a unique way of delivering new features to the product. Can you talk a little bit from your end, how new features are introduced into Build and how you learn about them?
You want to take that, David, or you want me to?
Oh, yeah, sure. So yeah, well, we have a customer success manager, Pauline, who kind of meets with us quarterly and discusses what new features are coming down the pipe or what are already integrated. We also, when you log in to the quality dashboard, there's always a glowing dot with new features that you can kind of go through and see what's been integrated.
Yeah, so from a previous life, I worked for a company that did what's called a waterfall product release. And if you're familiar with that approach, it's everything all at once. So once a year, we'd have like a big like 12.5 release, and there would be, a long laundry list of new features. It was exciting, and it was great for marketing because we can make a lot of noise about it, right? But it was what we found difficult for customers because it was a lot to absorb all at once. And it meant creating a job for you all where you had to go out and, train, essentially run a whole training program to get everybody up to speed on the new features. With an agile method, we release new features as they come. So you don't have to wait a year to get new features. As soon as it's been tested and cleared internally, we make it available. And so you can start using it immediately and start seeing results from that. All right. So we've talked a little bit about your past life before Kuali Build, your experience using Kuali Build, your experience with our customer support team. Have you given any thought, Ron, I'll direct this question to you. Have you given any thought to the future with Kuali Build? Do you have any projects on the horizon? Any other initiatives in mind, things that you would like to see with Kuali Build or things that you're planning?
It's such a tough question. I don't know I have the answer to that one.
Okay.
I think that what I could see for Western is like I see just an increased um, interest in the product across campus. I see a number of faculties and areas now coming to us as, well, let's have a look at that product and see if it's right for us. We just recently, our student engagement group signed up, right? And now using forums, it's nice. We're using a distributed management portal console. We share forums back and forth. And so now they're, up and running very quick, very easy. And I don't think it'll be long before more probably come along and realize the benefit of the product. So I think, we're kind of anchored into it at this point. Who knows? I don't know. I think my product suggestion today is I'd love to be able to leverage some of the data that sits on those Excel sheets without downloading them. So I know that there's things coming, I'm sure, and more opportunities.
David and Ollie, do you guys have any ideas for what's in the pipeline for Kuali Build?
I would say I'm kind of using some of the advanced features of Quali to create forms so that I can update database entries and then dynamically update websites with that information. So I've been kind of leveraging the more advanced features of Quali and seeing where I can kind of leverage some of its capabilities.
All right. What I'd like to do now is we've got probably about 15 minutes left. I just want to remind the audience that there's the Q&A feature in Zoom. And if you have questions for the team here at Western, you could pop a question in there and we'll be sure to ask it. So
I have a question, Paul.
Oh, thanks, Casey. Yeah.
Sure. I'd love to ask the group about your favorite features. What are the features of Kuali Build that you either use the most, value the most, just think are the most fun to use? I'd love to hear about features.
Oh, yeah, I can say that. My favorite feature in Quali is duplicating forms. So yeah, so we don't have to create a form from the scratch. For example, we can duplicate a complicated form and then turn that form into something else for other departments' needs. So that's why that feature was my favorite so far.
Thanks for sharing that. I can see how that would be a huge time saver, particularly
Yeah.
for a complicated form.
How about workflows? Oh, I'm sorry. I was curious about workflows. Build has the capacity, for branching logic, so you can have a series of if-then statements, with conditional logic, where if the user inputs one bit of data, it goes this direction. If they say something else, it goes to a different person, and this could be handy for approvals. Do you have what you would describe as a complex workflow? And if you do, can you share a little bit about what that looks like?
Yeah, I mean, maybe I can share my screen to show how it looks like.
Sure.
Or
Yeah, that'd be great. Go for it. And while Ollie's getting ready to share, just a reminder to the audience, if you have any questions at all for the team about their experience with Kuali Build, just be sure to drop those in the Q&A area.
so this is our homepage. As you see, we created so many forms so far, and there are many forms belong to different departments. And for example, let's check one of the forms like so this is one of the HR form and performance assessment form for engineering departments, and you see there are so many steps here, like leader approval, HR approval, and maybe this wasn't a good example because it's straightforward, like
Well, it's straightforward, but it's quite lengthy. I noticed.
I mean there was more complicated workflows. This just goes with approvals only.
And
Great
so
example.
at each step, each of those members of the workflow, they get their own individual notifications when it's their turn to move a form along in the process.
Yes, let's check this out. For example, this is another form for graduate department, and yeah, and we can, for example, we can have like route 1, route 2.
Yep. So this is where if you have like an if-then statement, you have different routes that
Yes, we put some conditions in the workflows, and for example, if the type of application is for current students, it goes to domestic students, it goes to a different person. If it is international, then it goes to other department, and so we can have many conditions and different types of approvals in the workflow.
So this is a fairly complex workflow, and I appreciate you sharing. And I noticed you have steps that are nested inside other steps. But up at the top there is one feature that I always found interesting. There's a toggle switch at the top middle that says design and test. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, I mean we can you can test the workflow if it is working well. So you just run the test, and then it gives you some mandatory options to fill the form. And then after you fill out the fields and submit, you see how this workflow is working.
A little preview window. You get to do a trial run and just make sure everything's in working order before you start to do any live work with it.
Do have another question that I want to make sure that we get to. Thank you so much for sharing that. Great examples of workflow. This question is, are you able to speak to which types of forms are the most popular of the 85,700 forms that have been submitted? Which of the apps get the most use? Which are the most popular? And I'm not sure who the best person to take that question is, but just sort of anecdotally, which ones are the most popular?
Yeah, I believe human resources forms are very popular because all the departments are using those kinds of forms.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we definitely have some forms every month that employees need to fill out and submit, right, for approvals, like your vacation requests or time away forms, and so there's some that just repetitively get used all the time for that reason.
Okay, and it sounds like a lot of the HR type of forms are ones that are heavily used. That makes sense. Yeah.
Agreed.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yes.
We do have another question, and that is Kuali able to be integrated into Jira? I'm sure the question could be answered more generally, integrated into software like Jira. For example, once a form is completed and a condition is met, it could create a ticket. I'm not an engineer, but I suspect through our API capabilities, we would be able to do that. I don't know if any of you have thoughts on that question.
Well, I think it's possible if you could create an API integration that you can post into your own in-house REST API, and then you would create a Jira ticket through your own REST API. Yeah. I think there's possibilities there.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure we have examples of schools that are doing just that. Thank you for the question.
That's one thing we always like to share with folks who are considering Kuali Build is the development team on our end. I've been impressed with their willingness to just make Kuali Build as accessible as possible. So, a RESTful API that returns a full JSON array is ready to plug and play with any other system that's to play. So we're ready and willing to go with the integrations. Let's see, Casey, do we have any more? I'm just checking real quick. Inbound questions. It looks like we're clear.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Ollie, David, any parting thoughts before I start to wrap things up here?
No,
Okay.
it's been a great experience.
Just a couple of slides that I'd like to share with everybody before we end. There's that beautiful logo. So one of the things that we do, so first of all, thank you Ron, Ollie, and David, for sharing your experience with Kuali Build. Very interesting. You guys have come such a long way. And I can only imagine how your end users, at the university there are appreciative of how much efficiency your team has been able to bring. It really is inspiring. Um, so one of the things that we close every webinar with is talking about Kuali Days. This is something that the company does for our customers annually. This is an in-person conference where we have lots of great workshops, lots of big announcements from the company that we're excited to get out. Uh, this year we have a pre-conference seminar where our customers can become certified on the Kuali platform. This is the baseline tool that we are building our products on. Yeah, and so that's in Long Beach this year, April 14th through 16th. I think registration is about to close for Kuali Days. So if you're really interested in Kuali and are considering becoming a customer, this is a must attend because you'll get to meet other customers firsthand. Great networking event, always a lot of fun. There is a don't ask or a what happens in the bar stays in the bar karaoke night at Kuali Days. So it's always a lot of fun. And this year we'll be having a live from Kuali Days on Tuesday the 16th. So stay tuned for more information about live from Kuali Days. If you want to go but aren't able to attend, you can tune in for an hour. And I'll be pulling in employees and customers rapid fire to kind of share their experience at Kuali Days and their experience with Kuali. So stay tuned for that. And if you're interested in digging in and learning more about Kuali Build, we have a ton of information on our website, case studies, white papers, infographics, videos. We have this webinar series. We have an ongoing series of webinars dedicated to Kuali Build. Scan this QR code or jump to our webpage, and all those resources are available for you there. And then finally, this is me. If you're attending and you have questions about Kuali Build that you weren't able to ask or didn't get answered, or you'd like to connect to either Liz Christensen, I mentioned previously, our Vice President of Sales Consultation, or Danny O'Rourke, our other Vice President of Sales Consultation for Kuali Build, I can get you connected and routed appropriately in real time and make sure that you've got all of your questions answered. And with that, I think we're done. Thank you, everyone, for attending. This was a really wonderful and great webinar. I appreciate your time. Ron, Ollie, David, thank you so much for sharing. You guys were wonderful. Such a great story. And we look forward to hearing more about your success in the future. And with that, we'll part. Thank you, Casey. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you.